Welcome to INOvators, a series where we feature thought leaders in the healthcare technology space. My name is Justine Giancola. I'm on the corporate communications team here at Inovalon. And joining us today is Charles Yee, a senior software architect with Inovalon. Charles, thank you so much for joining INOvators. Today we're going to talk about AI and its impact on the healthcare space. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about your background in machine learning, specifically within healthcare.
Thank you, Justine. My name is Charles Yee. I'm the head of AI and machine learning here in Inovalon. I've got a PhD in natural language processing, also known as NLP, and I have been working in the healthcare space for over 10 years. It's a very wide domain, this industry. I worked with insurance providers, one of the biggest health insurance, helping them do risk adjustment. And I also work for bioinformatic companies that I was helping them develop clinical trial matching tools for oncology. I've also worked for pharmaceutical companies, helping them track signals of adverse events that came out of their COVID vaccine. I've also worked for a lot of different startup companies, personalized nutrition or health and fitness recommendations using AI and machine learning.
Okay, very cool. So you've got a lot of experience in the space. So what are some exciting examples of AI improving healthcare that you're seeing today?
Well, as far as the patient journey, there is one initiative here that we do about enhanced eligibility. So when you make an appointment with your healthcare provider, they want to verify your insurance. Now, if you have the full information that you can show them your insurance card, then it's called eligibility verification. It's one query to the payer, and they'll find out if you have an active subscription or not, right? And once that's confirmed, they make an appointment with you. But very often, people don't have their full insurance information, right? Or sometimes on the phone, maybe English is not their first language. So they give partial or sometimes invalid information, right? And in this case, the healthcare providers will have to conduct an insurance discovery process. Basically, they take the partial information they have about this patient, and then they send to a third-party vendor who will, in turn, using those partial information, source from other APIs to get potential candidate informations about this patient. APIs that goes to TransUnion or Equifax, for example. They will tend to generate about 10 to 15 combinations. We're talking about first, last name, date of birth, social security, zip code, previous employer, and previous insurance, right? So all 15 of these will go into an insurance payer system to be validated. And the majority of them get rejected, right? And this is a problem for the payer because their systems are being overtaxed. So one of the solutions that we came up here with Inovalon is that we build machine learning models that will make classifications, right? In turn, it will decide which combinations are the most likely to be accepted and which ones have low probability, right? And what kind of error code are we like to get out of them? So the machine learning will help expedite and reduce the load on the payer's side. And this in turn streamlines the patient's appointment process so they can see their doctors sooner and easier.
That's great because it's helping the provider from a financial and a revenue standpoint, but also taking some of that burden and stress off of the patient. So seeing that AI is really positively impacting this entire process, that's really exciting. Now, for organizations balancing patient needs and regulatory requirements, how can AI positively impact them?
So with regard to regulatory, the topic of risk adjustment often comes up. It's a very big industry. The insurance company needs to know how much each of their patients will cost them in order to decide what their monthly premiums might be. But on the flip side of the same coin, CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, this is the federal government, they are also interested in how much a patient may cost them because they are paying the private insurances on behalf of these subscribers. And they have an interest to audit to know that they're not being overcharged. So risk adjustment is a very manual and time-consuming process, right? It takes many, many hours for hundreds, if not thousands, of medical coders to go from top to bottom of these electronic health records to find the diagnoses. So what we're doing with machine learning is we have a natural language processing module that does named entity recognition. It will go through the electronic health record and identify all the potentially true positive diagnoses. In turn, this is presented on a UI UX as a decision support tool for the medical coders. The medical coders, instead of reading from top to bottom, which is very time consuming, they just focus on what is suggested by the machine learning. They look at the diagnosis and they look at the context around that diagnosis, and they will manually determine very quickly whether that is a true positive or not, right? A true positive would be doctor saying patient is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. That goes into ICD E1109, which is the code for diabetes. But a false positive would be something like, I caution the patient the risk of developing type 2 diabetes, right? That's not a true positive diagnosis, and it should not go into the risk adjustment. So our machine learning try to distinguish these two as best as possible, but ultimately the manual coders are the ones who decide whether something should go into risk adjustment.
Okay, so AI is really helping to rule out those false positives.
Yes, it's a hybrid system.
Okay, wonderful. There are clearly a lot of really cool things going on with AI, but there are also a lot of opinions on the value and maybe even the limitations. What are some key considerations you think that healthcare organizations should keep in mind as everyone's kind of leaning into this era of AI?
Well, whenever a solution touches the patient directly, right? I mean, we're at an advent of computer vision where machine learning models can very accurately, almost as good as a dermatologist, identify melanoma or also skin cancer, right? That's making a diagnosis. So it actually directly impacts the patient. Or let's say risk adjustment. If we overpriced the patients and their costs, the insurance companies will raise the premium. And that means a certain percentage of their current subscribers will not be able to afford. And what happens is they're not able to go to the doctors, they're not able to pay for their bills. Again, machine learning is in a way impacting the livelihood or the well-being of our patients. So it's very important that the solutions that impacts a patient can be traced back step by step in a deterministic manner. So the companies that are providing these solutions are able to explain why they come to a certain conclusion and why they gave that result to the patient, right? An issue with modern day generative AI and also just deep learning in general is it's very non-deterministic, right? When you start training the model, the matrices are randomly seeded. And it's often very difficult to explain step by step in a clear and deterministic manner why the machine learning provided the answer that it did. So I think when it comes to the use of AI, we have to consider these issues and consider the legal ramifications caused by these issues.
Okay, so cautioning to be aware of the legal implications potentially, but overall, AI is really making a positive impact on healthcare, and something we always talk about is outcomes, patient outcomes. It's so important that we're making a positive impact on healthcare, and it sounds like some of these developments in machine learning and AI are really helping to do that. So certainly excited to see kind of what is coming up next. But Charles, really appreciate you being here with us today, and we'll see everybody next time on our next INOVATORS session.
Thank you, Justine.